cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death. So it is the most common reason for adult men and women to die. And these cholesterol plaques start forming very early in our lives, even though the actual heart attacks and strokes usually don't start happening until we hit middle age.
We know from autopsies that kids as young as 10, 11-year-olds who die of other causes, when autopsies are done, they already have plaque buildup in their arteries.
It's obscenely common. There are pathology studies of 12 to 14-year-old kids in the US who died for reasons unrelated to heart disease. But about 65% of those 12 to 14-year-olds have early signs of cholesterol disease in the blood vessels that feed their hearts with blood.
This military study, for example, looked at the autopsies of American soldiers who died in combat in the Korean War with an average age of 22, and found that 77% of the soldiers already had plaques of cholesterol in their arteries. So even if you look amazing and very fit on the outside, if you're eating a Western diet, your vessels still probably have cholesterol plaques that will keep accumulating and getting bigger and could ultimately result in a heart attack or a stroke.
If you're eating a Western diet, you're going to have heart disease.
When you look at, randomized controlled trials, really the only pattern of eating that's been shown to reverse heart disease, for example, is a plant-based diet, one that doesn't have animal products.
That's right. This ubiquitous disease that is our #1 killer has actually been reversed with a plant-based diet. As an example, here's a published case study from the Cleveland Clinic Foundation of a patient who had a heart attack and was treated with nothing but a plant-based vegan diet with no stents or cholesterol-lowering medications, and he was able to completely reverse the disease, to open up the clogged arteries going to his heart. There is also a lot of compelling data in the published literature that points to plant-based diets being helpful in the prevention of cancer. For example, scientists with Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center and others literally took petri dishes filled with cancer cells and poured blood from people following a plant-based diet into one petri dish and blood from people following a regular Western diet into another petri dish to see whose blood could fight off the cancer cells better. They found that blood from those eating a plant-based diet inhibited cancer cell growth by 70%, but the blood of those eating a regular Western diet only inhibited cancer cell growth by a mere 9%. So the blood of those following a plant-based diet was almost 8 times more powerful at inhibiting the growth of cancer cells.
The animal protein itself has been closely linked to increased production of IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor, which is very closely tied to cancer.
Yes, among other things, one of the mechanisms by which animal protein is thought to increase cancer risk is something called IGF-1.
IGF-1 is insulin-like growth factor 1. It's a growth factor. It causes things to grow, good and bad, including cancer cells. It is something that we do not want too much of in our body. However, animal foods increase our levels of IGF-1 by 2 mechanisms. One, animal foods have IGF-1 in them, so when we ingest animal foods, we ingest IGF-1. And 2, animal foods cause us to produce more IGF-1 through our own liver.
Eating these animal foods or animal protein actually revs up the enzymes in our liver that your body produces additional IGF-1. So if you have a cancer, and we all have cancers floating in our bloodstream, our immune system is constantly recognizing these cancer cells and taking them out. What IGF-1 does, it makes these cancer cells grow faster. It makes them proliferate. It makes them easier to metastasize. So it helps in the inception of cancer, in the growth of cancer, and the spread of cancer.
There's also a direct relationship between some cancers and the problematic hormonal content that is found in meat and in dairy.
Dairy naturally has hormones. So even if the packages say no added hormones, what they can't say no hormones, they can only say no added hormones. Milk is produced when a cow is just given birth to a baby. A cow is no different than any other mammal. There are a lot of hormones when the cow is just given birth.
Dairy contains large amounts of female sex hormones like estrogens and progesterone, and that includes milk labeled as organic or no hormones added. Remember, those labels only mean no hormones were added, which is kind of misleading because regardless of whether hormones were added or not, milk still contains all the hormones that are naturally produced by the cows. Even pediatricians have expressed concern that sexual maturation of prepubertal children could be affected by the ordinary intake of cow milk. This study examined the rate of female hormone-related cancers in 40 countries and found that milk plus cheese make the greatest contribution to the incidence of ovarian cancer, and that milk plus cheese make the most significant contribution to the incidence of uterine cancers. They said, among dietary risk factors, we are most concerned with milk and dairy products because their estrogen and progesterone levels are so high. As noted in this review published by Johns Hopkins School of Public Health, dairy is actually one of the most consistent dietary predictors for prostate cancer that exists in the published literature.
I do not recommend my patients to eat fish. Fish is an animal food, just like eggs and dairy and meat, and hence it's high in saturated fat, it's high in cholesterol, and it also raises our IGF-1 levels.
When you're eating fish, you're getting mercury, you're getting plastics, you're getting dioxins, you're getting so many heavy metals.
There are plenty of plant-based sources of omega-3 fatty acids without having to deal with the unhealthy aspects of fish.
So there you get the omega-3s, the healthy fats, but you don't get the mercury, you don't get the heavy metal, you don't get the dioxins. And this way, you're being healthy, you're being kind to the environment, kind to the oceans, kind to the fish, and you're being also kind to your own body.
The bottom line is, for those of us with access to food, other than our adopted habits and convenience, there's no good reason for consuming animal foods. Collectively, we're not only imposing unnecessary suffering and death on billions of animals, we're also devastating the environment that supports us all. Our planet is special, and it is quite literally the only home we have. This may sound obvious, but really, shouldn't we take care of it? Let's do whatever we can to preserve and protect the only home and the only other companions in the universe we have ever known.
descubren un vestigio en la selva amazónica que